Welcome to Take a Moment, a podcast series focused on mental health, connection, and community. I'm Liam, and today we're talking about the power of companionship, whether that's a pet, a support system, or someone who simply shows up. Joining me are Lauren Crawley from Pawsitive Therapy and Alison and Hilary from the CT State Middlesex Student Service Team. We'll explore how animals, routines, and human connections all play a role in emotional wellness and how we can support that in everyday life. So we'll give everyone a chance to introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Lauren Crawley. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I work with teenagers and adults, and I have a practice in Middletown. And I have Darwin, and he's one of my therapy dogs, and he's a really good co-therapist and coworker.
My name is Alison McCarthy, and I work as a licensed professional counselor, a wellness counselor here at CT State Middlesex, and we have 2 dogs at home that we love very much.
Hi, I'm Hilary Phelps. I'm the Disability and Accessibility Services Campus Lead for CT State Middlesex. I also have a couple dogs at home who are wonderful companions.
Wonderful. I do have 2 dogs also, for the record. I just want to throw that out there. Everyone else was talking about it. I got jealous. Here, so what inspired you to create Pawsitive Therapy, and how did you begin working with therapy animals to begin with? What's the story?
Well, I was at a tennis match with my husband's team one year. He was coaching high school, and there was a dog there with the Hartford Hospital badge on. And I asked the owner, and she said, "Oh, yes, that's my therapy dog." And we go to the emergency room, and we help out people. And I thought, wow, this would be really fabulous. So I got a dog 2 days after grad school, getting my master's in social work, and started training him, and then he passed the therapy dog test and did some volunteer work with him. And I found with my own counseling practice that people were much more likely to want to go to therapy and much more engaged. And it was really enjoyable, and they felt more relaxed having a dog there.
Nice. Now, is this a more recent trend, would you say? Were therapy dogs something that were even being taught when you were going through school, or?
I didn't learn anything in school, but I think Newtown, the shootings really brought out the highlight of how beneficial they were. We did go to Newtown after the shootings there. We've gone to many schools after there have been losses and things like that. So the dogs bring a really great comfort when we go there.
Wonderful. So how do animals support mental health? How can animals help someone who's struggling with mental health? Is it just by them being there, or is it something else to it, or what's, as far as you know?
I think dogs can really help with, and cats could help with routine. We have to get up, we have to feed them, we have to take them outside. They need love, they need nurturing, so they can really give us a sense of purpose and routine.
Interesting. So what is it about a dog being there, though, that's therapeutic? What is the nature of that? What would you say? Is it just the fact that they're there and they're consistently there? Is that therapeutic in and of itself, or is there more to it, or?
I think that dogs are really great at just kind of loving us and enjoying our company, and it's not conditional. Of course, if there's food, they love us more. But otherwise, they just enjoy us, and it's a constant companion that can make us feel more relaxed. Cuddling them, they've actually done studies that blood pressure can be lowered and stress hormones from cuddling and petting a dog or a cat. So
now, where does the role of a therapy dog come into place? A dog that you take with you publicly around. What are the benefits of this?
Well, we found that different places, some people, especially if we've gone to a nursing home, people were maybe, very stressed or not happy being there, and will be more likely to open up and engage with people. I think it just brings a smile. There's someone to talk to. There's someone to pet. For older people who maybe had a pet in the past, it reminds them. They would tell us stories. We've gone to the library. We've gone to children's psychiatric hospitals. We've done Read Across America or read a book, and then obviously not the dog, and then they spend time with the dog. So we've gone a lot of places and met some really fabulous people.
That's amazing. So what are some moments where you've seen a real shift in someone after spending time with a dog like this? Any specifics?
I will never forget. We were at a nursing home, and there was a woman there that probably had some cognitive issues and wasn't really making a lot of sense. And she started putting sentences together and words. And it was just, I don't know if the dog just relaxed her, but it really was beneficial. Yeah. And we've seen kids who, after there was a loss in a school, we've gone to a lot of schools after there's been a loss, and just really provide some comfort, and petting a furry friend can really help when you're really hurting.
Yeah, that's amazing. For Alison and Hilary. from your works with student services, how do connection and community impact the students' mental well-being? Like how?
Yeah, so I work with students with disabilities, and I find that oftentimes mental health issues overlap. I think in general, our student population is coming in with higher levels of distress, lack of connection, higher levels of loneliness, and kind of grew out of the pandemic in that sense. And having animals like Darwin really goes a long way to helping people feel more comfortable in their skin, and just being able to be present in the moment.
That's amazing.
A lot of the students who are coming in for counseling services are coming in for things like anxiety and depression and loneliness. And as Hilary said, the pandemic obviously didn't help us at all with some of those pieces. But being able to make some of those connections with other people can really help them to boost their self-esteem, to feel more confident about what they're doing, to engage more in their academics, to engage more with others. And as Hilary mentioned, sometimes when we bring animals onto campus as well, or we do other programming, those are a lot of the things that can really help students start to see different ways that they can make a connection.
I imagine that, yeah. I mean, just having an animal turnout would be better just in general, Someone sees an animal and they're like, crowds will start forming before you know it.
Right. When I was working at one of the other campuses, we actually brought like llamas to campus and goats. And so we've had a number of, one of the campuses brings little pigs to their campus. So lots of great options with animals. Yeah. One thing I was telling Lauren and Hilary before, with our dogs at home, and I think most people who have dogs experience this, but when you come home, your dog comes to greet you. It doesn't matter what kind of day your dog had. It doesn't matter what they were doing before you walked in the door. They come running over and they're excited. And, loneliness happens for people because sometimes they're not feeling seen and heard and understood. And, definitely the dogs make you feel seen and heard, even if you move a little bit, make you feel you ruffle a little treat bag or something. Sorry, I said the word. But they really make you feel that. And even though they can't always necessarily understand every word that we're saying, the way that they'll tilt their head and like they're trying to listen, they're trying to understand. And sometimes people don't get that from other humans.
Yeah.
So, I think it's really wonderful what they can bring into lives. And as we Hilary and I both teach college and career success classes on the campus. And as we meet with students and we ask them, what are you struggling with and what things do you do to manage your stress and your anxiety? I'm listening to music, I'm going for a walk or a run, I'm hanging out with my dog, I'm taking it for a walk. Like, those are a lot of the things that students are saying are helping them with some of those pieces. So these connections in different ways are great.
That's amazing. So what are some ways that you've seen students benefit from structured support? Like, have you ever seen some benefit from one of these support systems, either through like peers, staff, or campus activities, like,
I mean, I've certainly seen our students when we've had therapy animals on campus. We typically bring them in around finals time, as well as in addition to our Fresh Check Day, and just everybody's demeanor changes. You can be having a crappy day, but then you see those beautiful eyes and those goofy smiles,
Yes.
and and it just changes things for you. So definitely, animals, fast change, but also through making connections with other people in clubs. That has been a big source of connection for our students and an ability to make those interpersonal connections in a way. Now, a lot of these kids came in not really having seen anybody for the majority of their high school, and they don't know. They don't know how to snap out of that and go back to making these interpersonal connections. And so animals can be a nice way to bridge that. So are our on-campus clubs and student organizations. We're almost going back to having to teach those social skills because they never develop them organically.
And social media obviously hasn't
helped
that at all. No. Yes, it hasn't caused us to be able to spend time looking in someone else's eyes and having that meaningful conversation and getting to know them in the same way. So being able to have those activities that we have on the campus is a great place for students to be able to come and ease into those things and build those connections, build those friendships. So we have, a number of different, weekly programs and other kinds of, one-off programs and things that our student groups put together and that our student services team puts together. And it provides students with those opportunities to do that.
Your relaxation stations have been a huge hit. They've been every couple weeks throughout the fall and the spring, and the students really gravitate towards them. It's clear when you see them that they need it.
Yeah.
Because it is such a popular activity.
Yeah.
And it's just a place to come and chill, relax. The next one that we're going to be making sugar scrubs with essential oils. And our student Senate is paying for bagels, so people will be able to have a little food while they relax, have some music playing. So we all need those kinds of safe spaces where we can come and be ourselves and you just relax,
Interact
and enjoy,
with other
and
people.
connect with some other people.
I think the power of connection is easily forgotten. How much just a simple conversation with somebody else, or just making someone else laugh, can really just empower you or embolden you. And it really is few feelings like it. And we often forget the value of that.
One of the beauties with our relaxation station has been that a lot of our faculty and staff have been volunteering, so the students get to see them in a different venue. So it's not just the director of financial aid, but it's, here's Julia, and she likes to crochet with me, or whatever the thing happens to be. So, I think that's a really important piece, too, for them to make those connections, both for the sake of connection, but also to learn how to make professional connections and different ways to interact with people at different levels of the institution. So
Amazing.
I used to work in a middle school. One of my favorite things is I was walking down the hall and kids were kind of looking down whenever they would see my dog, and they would just light up and they would smile. And one of the dogs would be in the hall getting a belly rub and hey, everybody, watch out, Darwin's over here. And just, I think they learned a lot of empathy, too, by having an animal in the building.
Yeah.
And, cared for him and wanted to see how he was doing and things
It's
like
amazing.
that.
It gets them away from the phone, too.
Yes.
They
It's
look up.
amazing. They look up. That's amazing. So for Alison and Hilary, how do you create opportunities for students to feel seen and supported with all this pressure? How do you guys go about doing that?
Yeah, well, it's done in a lot of different ways. I mean, it's certainly done in classes when when we are teaching, but it's also done in large part in connection with our student activities. Ingrid is wonderful and has a wonderful relationship with Alison, and they really collaborate on an awful lot of things. And when you have more than one person involved in the organizing, it's much easier.
Yeah.
And we're able to come up with more robust programming, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we really have a wonderful team that comes together in terms of programming. We have an event coming up, a Fresh Check Day, which is an opportunity for people to sort of check in on themselves and check in on others about their mental health. And our whole campus is coming together for that event. We have students, staff, faculty, administrators who are all volunteering at different booths, and we've got a DJ coming in and food, and it's just a fun opportunity for people to come together, but it's also a chance for them to learn about these different aspects of their mental health and their overall health and how those things can tie together. We'll even have a therapy dog there. So lots of great stuff. But I think, like you said, it's being a community ourselves and coming together to provide that example. It's, creating safe spaces for students where they feel like they can genuinely be themselves. There's a lot of us in the world where there's different places where we have to do what's called code switching and switch how we're talking in different environments, whether it's from home to school or work or different things like that. And that can be draining and really exhausting, especially when you're having to do it over and over again. And so, being able to have these spaces where you can just feel like you can just be yourself. Our OLAS group, our group of Latin American students, had a program just yesterday where they had, rice and taquitos and all this stuff, and they were playing loteria, and it was just a wonderful opportunity to come together. And our Black Student Association had karaoke recently and a paint and sip day, and just places where students can come together and have some fun. And
really be themselves without having to
themselves.
put on an act or put on some sort of airs. Yeah.
And I think what's nice about both of those examples is they were organic student activities.
Yeah.
The students decided they wanted to do that and run that. And it was so much bigger than just the group. The day they had this paint and sip, I mean, the number of students I saw walking around, with their paintings, they were just so excited by that. It was really... it was a huge draw. It was well done.
Huge draw.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Those are
That's
thanks
amazing.
to Tawana, by the way, who was in a previous podcast that we had. So
Shout out.
kudos to Tawana.
Thank
Shout out to
you.
Tawana.
No, but that's true. And I'm even when we were talking about having a pet, I feel like a value in that is that you don't have to code switch with your pets. You know what I mean? You can always maintain, your pet will love you no matter what, but you can be yourself around them. There's somebody, or, well, they're not a somebody, but they are somebody that you can trust, you know, something that you can look forward to and lean on, and that's very interesting.
I also think reading their body language helps you realize, am I really stressed out, and how can I calm down? And you know, I remember one time I had a kid in my office, and she was really energetic, and my dog left the couch. And I said, "Oh, what do you think's going on?" I think I'm too hyper. And I said, "Huh." And so she kind of was able to regulate and calm down, and he came back. Yeah. And so it kind of helped her to recognize and say, what can I do to kind of manage my energy?
Because dogs can pick up on these emotions that we send out. I've seen it where I come home and maybe I'm not feeling too happy, or maybe I'm just a little sad. And my dog, I swear, she must know. She'll jump up on the couch next to me, and I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, come on. But
I'm here for you.
Yeah, she's lending, you know, puts the paw on the leg. No.
That's what I say. Oh, you're the nurse for today. I've got to go to work, but you got to take care of so-and-so, you know?
That's awesome. So for everybody, what do we think keeps people from reaching out, like when they need connection? Like, what would you say stops somebody from making a connection or reaching out when they need help?
I think people feel that they're the only one going through something. You know, I'm the only one that's anxious or sad, or I hear a lot of my young adult clients, everybody else has their act together. It's like, nobody has their act completely together. It's just sort of, and maybe social media makes people think everyone has it together and their life is perfect. So maybe thinking, or I'm a burden, I hear a lot of clients, I don't want to bother people, or I'm a burden, or kind of some messages they've gotten from the past, or my issues are too big, they can't help me. Or not even knowing where to go. Who do I ask for help from?
Sometimes finding that starting point can be very difficult. Yeah. What would you say?
Well, I would say that I completely agree with what Lauren said. You know, we see the same things with our students, and there's, you know, still some stigma around mental health in a lot of different communities and in a lot of different families. And so people are concerned about whether they should be sharing their personal business with someone else. And is that person really going to be able to help them? And so, you know, one of the things we do want to let people know is that, you know, as counselors and social workers, and even as disability services people, we're trained, you know, professionals to listen to people, to not have that bias that other people might have, and to be able to really provide that support. Sometimes one of the strongest and bravest things we can do is ask for help, and people don't always realize like that really is a sign of courage, to be able to say, hey, I could use some help.
There's a stigma that admission of like needing help is a sign of weakness, but it's actually a great strength.
It's a strength that you were brave enough to ask for that help. And I think that we often feel that if someone else needed help, if you needed help, if, you know, Liam or Lauren or Hilary, I would say, oh, of course, go get some help, or I'd be happy to help you. But when it becomes ourselves, somehow we feel differently about that. And I think it's important for us to realize that just as we would want our best friend to be able to get that help, that we, you know, also reach out for those things for ourselves in our lives.
Yeah.
Everybody needs help. And also, like you're saying, it's confidential. You know, if they share something with any of us, we're not putting it, you know, we're not telling anybody, we're not telling their friends, their professors. So it's a private place to go have a conversation.
And if you need to start with your dog, they probably won't tell anyone either.
That's right.
There's a beauty. There's a beauty in being able to overcome stigmas and fears and secrets, because they might just keep those.
And here we also have timely care for our students, which I think is a fantastic resource, because a lot of times it can be 1 a.m. when you're feeling like you really need to talk to somebody. And the advantage to timely care is that you can reach out 24/7 and talk with somebody and get support. You know, it's daunting enough to say I need help, but then to contact somebody and say, oh, well, we can get you in 2 weeks from Thursday. When no, I'm having a problem now. I need help now. So we have, in addition to all of these things that, you know, that could be scheduled, we have this wraparound that's available to all the students. And I think it's huge, because a lot of times when you finally decide, okay, yes, I want some help, I want to do something about it, you're at that point where you've made the decision. You need to act before you decide that, no, I'm not going to do that.
Second guess yourself or anything.
Exactly. And timely care makes that possible for students to act on things in the moment.
And it's a free resource, which is wonderful to have 24/7. So it's great. You know, along those lines, if people are out in the community and they say, well, I don't have access to timely care, great for those college students, but what about me? If people are not aware, 988 is the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. People can dial 988 for mental health emergencies, just like they would dial 911 for police, fire, you know, medical emergencies. So for mental health, 988 is a great number that they can dial.
I also think it's helpful if you're worried about someone that you could call the police to do a wellness check. Some of my clients or people say, oh, I'm so worried about my friend, but I don't know what to do. So call the local police and say, I just want you to do a wellness check to check on the person.
Yeah,
I'd rather have someone mad at me than hurt or dead. I tell people that all the time.
We had police officers in here last week who were speaking on the benefit of doing wellness checks. And he says, as when you approach the person, as upset as they may be initially, it is 9 times out of 10, it's for the best that they are there and they are
someone
providing
cared.
them. Yeah, someone
call and
cared.
check on them.
Yeah. What are some simple ways through pets, campus programs, or just everyday life that someone can start reconnecting with others or themselves? Like, what do you think someone can do?
Well, I think one thing is if your dog likes to go for walks, get together with a friend and go for a walk either with your dog or with their dog. I mean, I have so much fun going with my friends and their dogs in the woods. Like, the dogs have so much fun. We get to coordinate and have fun as people. So that's one of my favorite things, to go in the woods with them and all the things they smell and see, and, the crunchy leaves and everything else. So, and I have to say, we met our neighbors when we got a dog. We didn't really know our neighbors, but walking up and down the street a million times, we met our neighbors, which was fabulous. And also just if there's events and you like to bring your dog to, or just doing fun things, playing fetch, finding an activity that your dog likes, because it's important to play both as animals and as people. Play is good.
Yeah, that's good. What do you say?
On our campus, one of the things we have is just a number of decks of Uno cards. And students like to get together, and so it's really easy. You pull out Uno and people gather around and start playing because they're all familiar with the game, and other, kinds of games like that. So I think simple things like that are ways that people can come together if you find a common interest, that you can go and do that kind of thing together. I find for me with some of my friends, just grabbing a cup of coffee. If I know someone's going through a tough time, or a friend of mine knows I'm going through a tough time, they'll say, hey, how about if we made it Dunkin' for a little bit, So it doesn't have to be big and complicated, or you can meet at somebody's house. It doesn't even have to be expensive or have a cost to it, but just to sit around, have a cup of tea, or, whatever you enjoy. So simple things sometimes.
Absolutely. No, I agree with both what they said. I think with dogs, even if you don't have somebody to do something with, but you want to make those connections, just go somewhere public with your dog.
Yes.
That's the best way to get to get to meet people. If you're feeling like, gee, I don't know how to make friends in this situation,
Exactly.
just take your dog somewhere public, chill out, and before you know it, you're going to have people come in to just want to meet your dog and meet you as well.
And if you take your llama or pot-belly pig for a walk, you'll get even more people talking to you.
Yeah.
So
That's for sure.
That's true. So, one last question. What do we do to each take a moment in our own lives to reset or recharge? Like, what do you do when you need to take a moment? Like,
I like to hang out on the couch with my dogs. It's one of my favorite ways to end the day. Just really relaxing. We have an 11-week-old puppy, and I just have been kind of cuddling with him. He's very soft and just kind of falls asleep. So just being present with my dogs helps me to take a moment.
That's amazing. What about you, Alison?
we actually the dogs that I have, I share with my daughter, and so I had them over for the weekend, and it was just so wonderful doing that. So that was for me an absolutely fabulous thing. Last week on campus, for the month of April, we've been doing wellness fitness events with students on the campus, and so we had done chair yoga and another yoga video with students last week, and now I've been doing the chair yoga. So I'm really enjoying that as just a place to kind of, you can sit and do it and you can recharge, but it's been really wonderful. So
What do you do?
My mantra is have dogs will walk. Ever since we got our first dog in like 03 or 04, of course I was the one who always got in charge of walking them. So that continues to this day. I feel great peace when I just take the dogs and we go walking near my home. And it's just very quiet and restorative.
and they're always happy to go.
Yeah, they are always happy to. Absolutely.
Sure.
Sometimes they want to go farther than I do.
Yes. But they don't have plans with anyone else or whatever. They're really pretty good that way.
Know where to be later. Come on.
Right?
A lot of good smells.
Yes. The woods are very interesting.
For sure.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all for being here. It's
Thank
been
you.
a wonderful podcast.
Thank you.
Please. Thank you all for being here, and to the listeners at home, thank you all for the work that you do to make a connection a real part of mental health care, both on campus and in the community. If you're listening and feeling disconnected, you are not alone. There are people, places, and programs here to support you. Please join us May 3rd at Harbor Park for a free community event focused on wellness, support, and resources. Until then, take care and take a moment when you need it.